Okay, good morning, traders, and welcome to Trade the Structure and the morning Jumpstart report for what are we at? 28th of March. So, getting closer to Easter, getting closer to a little minor holiday for us anyway. So, let's get into it then. Let's just see how the markets were on Friday. So, to start with, sorry I couldn't get out the morning report on Friday. Did the 20-minute recording and then realized that the sound actually didn't get picked up for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. It's all sorted out now, but it was just a bit of a tech issue. So by the time I finished it, 20 minutes later, yeah, everything, all the good stuff I spoke about didn't come through. So look, there's a couple of good trades that I spoke about, well, to myself anyway. And they turned out really well, so we'll discuss that again today and just talk about the levels that I'm looking at for the day on the key indices. We've got some commodities, obviously some currencies, and just to throw it in there, a couple of cryptos. So to start with the ASX 200, now this has been the same sort of usual pattern of late. You've got the market chop around. This is pretty much the day session. Chopped around here, flushed out one side, back down again. So it's just taking out levels. It's just really, if you're intraday trading, it's a tough gig because you're not really getting anything running on. You thought it might have rolled over here, straight back without really beating the 5-minute chart. You can't really trade long off that. It was no higher low, no nothing. It was just off a level, bang, straight up. So chopped around during the day and then obviously retested and went straight back up again and started to really press higher into the US close, which has done a lot in the past. And this kind of a thing we've seen in the past that, technically that's found that support at that level of 7,400 and then rallied into the close. But it's just really squeezed on the shorts. Any shorts built up, squeezed them out into the close. But that kind of a setup has seen the market, flush down on the open. So that could give buyers confidence on the open, but I would see something like this, a bit of a flush on these buyers from overnight. Any longs that want to exit, they can exit at a better price as well. So it just feels like it's a choppy market it's lacking clear direction, even though this market has been, it's been pressing higher, but it's the bulk of it's done out of hours. Okay, so if you're building a share position, that's okay, but if you're trading intraday, it just makes it a lot tougher. Looking at the bigger picture, that's been the move ups from this is on the ASX 200. The previous was just the SPY. This is the 30-minute chart. 73.37 was some support. It started to lift up that area. Find support through here at 73.95. Still growing higher. It's just whether or not I would expect to get a flush just to squeeze out some of this move up. Okay, squeeze them out with a bit of a pullback, build a higher low, and then see if we can ramp up to 74, 78. It's been, like I said, a choppy market, so just be wary of that. Dow found support at 34,648 through this zone here. Smashed up into the close, 34,892. So it was a bit of a ramp. You got this market. It flushed that level on the open. So it opened around 12.30. You can see that. Flushed the highs, 34,892, and then sold off. So, that is a choppy market also. Lacking clear direction. There's just, there's this juggle between bulls and bears. No one's willing to commit to the upside, but also no one's willing to commit to the downside because we're talking about interest rate rising cycle. And that sort of pressure hasn't filtered through. Okay, every time they talk about it, good numbers, talk about higher inflation, the market's bouncing as opposed to getting sold down. You got interest rates with yields, bond yields were rallying on Friday. So they're talking up higher inflation. They're talking up a potential. There is a case for the Fed stuffing it all up, but the market. The indexes are not taking it that way at the moment. And it's maybe what we're seeing, we've spoken about previously, where else are you going to put your money? Share markets are on all-time highs. They keep pressing higher. They're sort of blowing apart every theory of, sell-off. And shorts in the past, any shorts that have been, jumping into the market thinking we're overextended, which they've got every right to think, have been squeezed out of the market. So it's just, there's not too many places to place your cash to get some sort of yield. Okay, and like we said, bonds, are very low yields at the moment. The yields are climbing, but they're climbing from a very, very low base. Okay, so if that's the case, then bigger funds, bigger money that's going to move the market is probably not filtering out of shares at the moment. It's just the way it looks like at the moment. So it is going to remain a choppy market, I would expect. So for the day, I'm expecting this to hold. Maybe we get some sort of selling off 34,892, or maybe we're looking for an extension to 35,055. But I would expect that extension is going to come at the start of the US session, and maybe the start of the European session. Just depends on what happened. Everyone's focusing on what happened in the US. No one's really worried about European markets or Asian markets, unless there's a bit of a meltdown prior. But even if we had a bit of a sell-off in the Asian markets, you can find that the US is up. 300 points and dragging them back up again. Okay, over to Hang Seng. Now, the Hang Seng to me, this kind of action here looks very, very, it's weak bullish action, if that makes sense. Okay, so you've got this resistance through here. We probed, we fell away here, probed into it here, backed off, flushed higher before we get a bigger sell-off, retested, made a lower high than previously, and another little minor lower high here, 22,190 before we found this move back down to 21,695. Then it probed again at a lower level. Okay, couldn't get up through that lower level to retest to 22,190, and we had a big sell-off on Friday. So that was in the Hang Seng hours. So that was their day session and aftermarket session, and then later on in the European start of the European market, which is the close of the Hang Seng, somewhere around 7 o'clock Sydney time, before we had that grind back up again. So to me, that grind up looks like we're going to flush this level 21,695, and then I'm basically looking for a sell-off after that. I think this, it could just keep going higher. If it's going to keep grinding up and then you start consolidating around that level and you start to get a higher low form, then you've just got to be long. Okay, but for me, the way it got sold off here quite sharp, and then we've been grinding up, looks to me like there's some more downside to come and potential for a push through that 21,265 to lower levels. Okay, off a major resistance zone and some lower highs. Japan index, the Nikkei 225. That was more of a larger range between 28,014 and sort of that, you could say 28,368, which it hasn't really retested just yet. It was supported through here, and the good thing is it supported a few times here. They had a big flush after the open, and that held. Okay, then we held higher low and another higher low. Okay, and that retested that higher low. So it's looking good. Even after this sharp sell-off, that was a big squeeze of all these longs, flushed them down and bounced straight back up again. So I'm expecting that to extend to 28,368 to retest those highs on the open, and then from there, I'm either looking for a shoulder and a sell, or just to continue grind higher through that level. The thing with the Nikkei, it could flush that level, we could flush quite convincingly. So that convincingly will drag in some buyers, and then it could really push 100 points higher and then start to fade off that. So and it may not give you a buy entry off the level. It just go bounce power straight through the level and then pull back off that level. So we'll see how that goes. We're on to the US tech now. I should have spoken about that before, but the US tech, which is the NASDAQ, it's still finding support. It's come off this level here, way down at 12, well, say 13,000, 13,000 even. It's been just ramped up since then, buying, higher lows all the way, and it hasn't broken those higher lows yet. You got the most recent one is somewhere around 14,450, say. These lows in here, retested, held. Now it's starting to retest into this level here at 14,640, and it's holding. Okay, so really just waiting to see whether that can hold. That doesn't look too crash hot to me, but it's done it before. You push down, bounce straight back up again before we've come back down and retested. So we may retest in this zone and start to hold and build another leg up, something like this, to take us up through these highs at 14,838. But it's still, to me, I would like to see that, if I'm going to go long, I would like to see it press down to that zone, potentially hold this inside level, somewhere around here. Hold that, maybe flush it, and then start to rally. So you'd be looking for something maybe like this, and see if we can get along off that and take us up through those highs. If not, you got to be careful on the short side. Okay, yeah, fine going short off lower highs, but just be wary that it will go set up some shorts and then drag them back out again and on a rally. Okay, to the DAX and European markets. The DAX, you can see this has been a key level up here, 14,565 through that highs up there. Let's make that looking a bit better. These highs up through here have held. We've got the market pushed down, and then it's been choppy and sort of range bound through 14,196 and 14,365. Okay, we're just starting to break up through that level. It doesn't mean that, okay, because that resistance broken, because it's holding some higher levels, that it's going to rally and back up and through. But it means to be cautious on the long side, on the short side, if you're looking to get shorts. But still, what we'd be looking for, you've got little minor resistance zone here, and you've got to offset that, you've got a higher low. So it could mean that this is kind of a new range starting to form. Okay, you could be pressing down, which could give you a nice little short into that zone around 14,255. You could get 50, 30, 40, 50 pips off that, of points. I'm not talking currencies, we're talking indices, so points off that one. But you just want to make sure you've got some a clear price action to trade short off. Otherwise, you could get a bit of a flush, hold another higher level, and you can break up through that level and go to 14,565. Okay, UK, That was a rising uptrend. You could see rising, 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 started to break that, didn't go anywhere. This was the start of the European session on Friday night, broke that level, come into the open, and then held and went straight up. Okay, so it's still, it's still a strong market. I think they had some news out, some numbers out in the UK which weren't too crash hot. Maybe that's taken pressure off any rate rising or inflation. But the thing is, talking up inflation, the market's still rallying either way. So it's going, it's really just at the moment flushing. Okay, dragging in some shorts to flush them out and rally. So if it can't go up, what it's doing is dragging in shorts, dragging in, and that could be the juice that's giving it a bit another kick higher. Okay, so at the moment, still relatively strong market, still risk on, and there's no real, it's brushed aside a war, with Ukraine news, it's brushing aside inflation at the moment. That may take a longer time to play out. I still feel that longer term, inflationary numbers is going to, that rate rising cycle is going to start to see, bigger positions filter through and take profit taking. It's just where the money, you've got to make sure that if you can expect that, where the money is going to go to. Okay, the money's going to flow out of one thing into another asset. Okay, and at the moment, still shares are sort of the key at the moment. So that's the level, below that 75.45. I would just be watching this area in here, 75.20 on the UK, on the FTSE, UK 100. It is a bit of a grind up, so we may react lower if we get a lower high there. Okay, go short, looking for a short into that 74.65 and potentially taking out this this level here. So ideally, we'd love to see a flush of that level on the open and then a lower high. So that's what I'll be aiming at. Otherwise, it's going to be, looking for that grind back up again, potentially up and through 75.45. Currencies, so the US dollar, we'll just have a look at that. US dollar pressed down on, actually it bounced up, so what am I talking about? It initially pushed down at the start of the Asian market session. You can see that just in here. It started the Asian market session, pressed down into this level and ramped straight back up again. Okay, so what you're looking at there is pressure to the downside as the US dollar is rallying, obviously pressure to the downside in currencies. Now, the Aussies had the benefit of rising commodity prices, which is getting supported. So it's really just going sideways at the moment. It's found some resistance at 75.28. But you've got, the thing is, what I'm looking at here, you've got some really, it was tested quite a few times, okay, as opposed to just finding a high, a lower high, grinding down, dragging in shorts, squeezing them back out. You've got a push up into this level, a flush of the level before we got a move down, and then it's retested a couple of times and failed, but it's holding higher levels. So you really want to see some of those higher levels broken and maybe something like that for a bigger move. Okay, we could find that this is going to be a short, through that if you're boxing that up. Don't forget we're on a 15-minute chart. You might find that as a lower high coming in, then you can break through that low, risk above, but then you got these little higher levels to contend with, okay, and it may just sort of press into there and ramp straight back up again. So that, it's a fair move on the short side, but it's not part of the bigger move. You want to see maybe a flush through these levels, something like that, flush through and then get a lower high to work off, okay, and that could take us, for a bigger move down. And it's only because we've got these sort of failed to continue higher, and it may be that just this uptrend is starting to feel a bit weighty. It's starting to get a bit of weight to it. Okay, meaning any of those longs might want to start to exit out of those long positions, book some gains, or at least take some risk off the table. But for now, that uptrend is not broken. Euro, it's pressuring down at the moment, but it's choppy. You've got resistance here at 110.45. And you got support through here, 109.62. So really, it's looking pretty rangy through there. Now, if the US dollar continues to go higher, which it looks like on the longer term basis it can, then I'm expecting this to go through 109.62. So for shorts, I don't want to short it into the level as such. I want to see maybe a push down and then get a lower high to work off. And whether it's going to be something like that, or whether we're going to get sort of a bigger flush down, we might get a bigger flush down and then a bigger lower high to work off. The bigger, the better. Bigger lower high means it's going to be a deeper move down, a deeper extension down, a deeper sell-off, as opposed to these little ones here, which could just take us, okay, push through, retest that level, and take us into the next level at 109.35, and that's 30 or so pips. Okay, so that could be a better option. Right, so just keep an eye on that one, and that's really, like I said, if the US dollar just continues to power up, but it's coming, the US dollar is coming into some resistance zones, which it's failed off before. The pound, the choppy little thing, that one. Resistance at 132.10 is held. It flushed up through, down, flushed up and through it again later on, and the start of the US session, it got sold into as the US dollar rallied. So, you know, they're with the pound, any sort of talk of inflationary pressure is going to give it some sort of support. The problem is that you've got the pound and the US dollar are both talking up inflation. Okay, and so really, in their own right, they're finding some buying. At the moment, the US dollar's popping up, and you're finding some selling into the pound. So it's like the US dollar's favored at the moment across the board. Okay, and it's not just, so you're finding potential just into the US dollar on any other pair is getting buying into it. So it's just outweighing any sort of buying into the pound. So which means that we could be looking down to 131.26, but I want to be working off a lower high here. Okay, I don't want to just see that it pushes into that level and starts to bounce back and you get this kind of a higher low and then you get a press back up into 132. We continue to hold this zone through here. Okay, so really I would like to see that from here give some sort of lower high to work into, you know, something like this, and that could take us through, and then we could get a decent enough move to trend on to trend lower and to give us a good little short. US yen, it's up near this 122.25 area. It's had a good sell-off here, and that's the trade that we're talking about. I missed out on, unfortunately, but talking a bit of a short off this level, 122.40, and look, it did, and it gave us a nice little short in here. You can see, whoops, just draw that a bit better. You can see the lower high in here, pressured another lower high, and you got the shoulder in here. That, you know, some really, really good setups. As it started to get lower, it's got a bit more extended and it probably got harder to short into, but those shorts, if you did happen to get late into the trend, they still worked out okay. Before we got the sharp bounce off that level at 121.16, a big bounce up here, and it started to work its way back up again. So whether we're going to work our way all the way back up to 122.40, retest it, then fail, we'll wait and see. It's just yen is not finding any love for the shorts because that the yen is not actually getting any safe haven buying at the moment. So it's just all about that US dollar. Gold. Now, gold to me looks like it could potentially be a sell-off here. Not a sell-off, but sorry, what am I talking about? Potentially be a bit of a bounce into this level, 1966, because I like this kind of level. That's a big move down, and we haven't really got ahead of ourselves on the upside. Okay, that move up there, that pullback, and then that secondary move up has extended pretty much to a T. If you look at that move there and you use that projection for the move up there, it's taken us into that 66 area. Okay, which is worked out quite well to plan. That back off there, it doesn't mean just because we've done a couple of lines there that we're going to get a big sell-off. It has flushed lower. It's flushed into that 1950, and then we held. So really, it's about whether or not we're going to get a higher low. This higher low is going to take us up and through 1966, or we're going to negate that, and it's these. Well, we can probably look at it there. That flush there, are we going to get some more shorts? Okay, longer term, the longer term EMA, which I think is 100, is still on the rise, and we've kind of contracted into that level, which would mean you're looking for expansion again. And expansion, I would expect, is going to take us up and through 1966. So that's what I'm watching for at the moment. The momentum's at a good little zone. It's come back up. It's on the rise. So everything's pointing up for me. It's just whether the market believes me or not. And I would expect that's going to be later in the European session or the start of the US session, which we're going to see some sort of action to trade from. Oil here. Oil is chopping around here. It's pushed up through that level, had a bit of a pullback at 111.15, pushed up a bit higher, but that it hasn't continued with what you would expect, with that strength. So it's looking to me like it's getting a bit of weight. So it's got up through these highs, and then we've had some buyers from previously easing out through that level. So what the market can tend to do as you've got bigger positions, they'll ramp it through a level and then just sell into it. As you've got all these breakout buyers buying, send into some retail. It looks like a buy here, but the buying has failed. Okay, it's failed, come back down below. We've come back up, pressed up into that zone again, and then failed again. So what you're looking for is really, I want to see if this 111 can find some support, or are we going to fail again? Okay, and we could just do this kind of thing and get a bigger move down, or we just start to chop into that level again and we start to build for another move up. Okay, so really that price action is not something I would be trading from. I just want to see some more, either a lower high to start to work some shorts into, or to see if we're going to start to, find some support to see if we can get a higher low to work into and see if we can get up a move up and through that level at 114, even up through those highs at 116. We could be looking at some sort of head and shoulders pattern. Shoulder, head, another shoulder play out, which would mean we're going to have a good little move down. Okay, into copper. Copper's showing something similar. We've got a press up through here, held a higher low, 102.15, press up through those highs, but it's failed. Okay, failed back down below that 103.65 area. So whether or not these lower highs are going to take us through, for a push back down to 102.15, or whether it's going to start to hold and ramp back up, I feel that it's starting to look a bit heavy. And with regards to this big level up here, you've got this big move here. We're going to get a key lower high, which this would be the key lower high. So then you could start to look at that move down, secondary move down. It's at least down to 98.20 or even through that support level, if this starts to become a good little major lower high. Over to some cryptocurrencies. Now the cryptocurrencies have ramped up. They got bought up over the weekend, probably on the back of the US dollar move, sorry, the US index move. They really seem to be coupled to the indices at the moment, the risk on move into the indices. There's a big wick there at 9 o'clock. So they've opened up, held those levels, and then that 45,400. I'm not trading it up here. I want to see a bit of a grind lower. I want to see that level hold. Okay, for me on Bitcoin, if I'm even going to put some money at risk on that one there, because it's kind of extended there. It's extended from Friday's close, so it could just keep grinding higher. You never know. But what I'm looking for is, if I want to get long, I want to see a pullback, hold this level at 45,400 before going long. Otherwise, I'm looking for a shoulder short. Okay, and on to Ethereum. That's gapped up quite strong as well, and it's gone through that 32.54 area. So, well, we won't really worry about that. It's gone through that level. That's a big wick there. So maybe it's a weird print on the CFD, or whether it actually traded that. Let me just have a quick look. No, it's just a bad tick. So if you go on to looking at TradingView, it didn't show this week. So that's a bad CFD pricing from the pricing provider. And I think it'll be across the board for different providers as well. So we've got 32.54. I'm really just looking to see, if that level can hold and we can find some sort of action where we're going to chop around here and then later on build for a long, or whether we just get and you want to see it happen quite soon, whether you push back down below the level and we get a sell-off. Okay, so don't worry too much about what I've just drawn up here, but that's what I'll be looking for on that level. You're either looking for that level to consolidate, which if it's going to consolidate, you don't want a deeper move down, because a deeper move down sort of weights to the sellers. But if it starts to hold the higher end of that move up, then you're looking for longs. All right, that's pretty much it for me, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll see how we go today. See if the market is getting a little bullish on the open, or whether we're going to start to get some sort of action to the downside. And for me, it's all about what happens on the open and SPY. I would expect to do what it's done previously. It looks really buoyant into the US close, and then get some selling straight off the open. Okay, and maybe a grind down. Maybe we'll retest in that 73.58 area. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining me, and we'll speak to you again soon.